Unmute. Legislator Burgess, can you hear us?
Yes,
Test. Legislator Burgess
yes. Can you hear me?
and Legislator Hasman, you can hear us as well? All right, give us a second.
After day.
Legislators that are on Zoom, can you hear the chambers?
Yes.
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 Okay. Did you say Legislator Roman just? Okay. Legislator Roman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Roman, just a reminder, your video will need to be on during all the votes.
Absolutely, no problem.
All set? The July 11th, 2023 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Alcoffer is present. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines is present. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Burgess.
Here.
Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty. Mr. Delahanty is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier is present. Ms. Hasman.
Here.
Ms. Hasman is present. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert is present. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith is present. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. President Lamar.
Here.
President Lamar is present. Mr. Long. Mr. Long is present. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. McCabe.
Present.
Mr. McCabe is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Roman.
Present.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Ms. Vecchio. Ms. Vecchio is present. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson is present.
Please stay seated. I would like to introduce the Reverend Elizabeth Brooks Harden, the rector of St. Luke's Episcopal Church, who has been invited by Legislator Smith to lead us in a moment of prayer.
Thank you. I'm deeply honored and grateful to be here with you this evening. Let us pray, beginning with silence. Gracious and loving God, I give thanks for the women and men gathered here this evening who, having been elected to represent the people of Monroe County, endeavor now to enact laws in the best interest of all. As they undertake this important and holy work laid upon them, fill their hearts with compassion for those they serve. Give them courage to speak on behalf of all whose voices are silent or weak. Give them strength to be advocates for all who are disenfranchised and pushed to the side. Give them grace to hear and speak only truth. Give them wisdom and creativity as they pursue justice, equity, and well-being for all the people of this county. And at the end of the evening, as they return to their homes, give them the blessings of rest, comfort, and peace of mind, knowing their work has been done well and for the sake of others. All this we ask in the name of our loving, life-giving, and liberating God. Amen.
Reverend Brooks Harden, on behalf of the legislature, we would like to present you with a certificate and thank you. Please stand as Legislator Don Dorfer will lead us in the pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Your copies of Day 6, June 13, 2023 are available through Novus Agenda. Without exception, this journal will stand approved as submitted. Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on Novus Agenda as well as online. There are several proclamations scheduled this evening. Mr. Clerk?
Would Britton Hargers please come forward? Also legislator Carolyn Delvecchio Hoffman and President Sabrina Lamar.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Britton Hargers, whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations that make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor Britton Hargers for his advocacy in community education. And whereas Mr. Hargers has worked tirelessly to spread knowledge and acceptance of the trans experience, and whereas Britton has advocated for the experience of trans masculine, trans feminine, and non-binary individuals, and whereas in 2018, Mr. Hargers founded Next Generation Men of Transition, which was established to provide an active support system, visibility, and to create a community for men throughout their transitions. And whereas Next Generation Men of Transition has not only gained attention locally, but is accessible and attended by trans men worldwide via Zoom. And whereas Britton has volunteered and worked with numerous organizations in our community and has hosted many educational workshops and lectures. And whereas Britton Hargers was awarded the Community Leadership Award by Rochester Black Pride in 2018 and the Black/Out Magazine's Trans Day of Remembrance Trans Visibility Award in 2022. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Sabrina Lamar, President, and Carolyn Delvecchio Hoffman, Legislator, District 25, we hereby honor Britton Hargers for his commitment to serving Rochester and Monroe County on this 11th day of July, 2023.
Wow, all I can say is thank you. Tonight, I accept this proclamation not on behalf of myself, but on behalf of Devon Davis, who was a brother of Next Generation Men of Transition, who was brutally murdered last year by a drunk driver. Devon, this is for you. To every ally, every secure space, every safe space, everyone who believes in change, visibility, and diversity for all, I thank you.
Would Teresa Bertolone please come forward? Also legislators Yaversha Roman, Steve Brew, President Sabrina Lamar, and County Executive Adam Bell.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Teresa Bertolone, Whereas it is a sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations that make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor Teresa Bertolone on being honorably discharged from her second tour of duty with the Monroe County Legislature. And whereas Teresa Bertolone has touched the lives of many Rochesterians working behind the scenes, making the rest of us all look good, especially members of the legislature. And whereas Teresa worked for the last 7 years in the minority office for one awful chief of staff and one good one. She previously worked in the legislature during the years of President Kevin Murray and Majority Leader Sam Colombo. And whereas during her first tenure with the legislature, she worked very closely with the late Nan Johnson, who she maintained contact with until she passed last year. And whereas she also worked as an aide to the late Tim O. Maines, the first openly gay person to be elected to public office in New York State history. And whereas Teresa is also the master of secrets, known for getting the inside scoop in the hallways of the fourth floor or while on break on Irving Place, and affectionately known as the staff mom, dishing out life advice whether you ask for it or not. And whereas Teresa also is proud of her daughter, Christina Burnett, who is 29 and lives in Cleveland, Ohio, who she talks to loudly on speakerphone in the office. She also frequently talks about her other adult child, Pete Burnett, 63 of Rochester, and most importantly, her dog Toby and her cat Millie. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Sabrina Lamar, President, Adam Bello, County Executive, Steve Rue, Majority Leader, Yaversha Roman, Minority Leader, and Linda Hasman, Legislator, District 23, along with every member of the legislature, do hereby honor Teresa Bertolone on this 11th day of July, 2023. Good luck on your retirement. We'll miss you.
Oh, this just doesn't seem fair just for being me. But I'll take it, going home with it. So thank you all. What a surprise. I cannot believe you actually surprised me. Oh, my goodness. And it's all true. I found that using my mom voice really works. When you need to get something done, people just stop and snap their head and do it. It's amazing. I wish I thought of that back in the 80s. So to all of you here, thank you so much. This is my last full legislature meeting. I will be around for the next 2 weeks till the end of the month, so come see me. And thanks again. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will now recess the legislature to hold a series of public hearings. I now declare open the public hearing on amending the Monroe County purchasing law to allow procurement on the basis of best value.
No one was registered for this public hearing this evening.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I now declare open the public hearing on resolution adopting 2024 through 2029 capital improvement program.
There was no one registered for this public hearing this evening.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. I now declare open the public hearing on resolution entitled approving and adopting updated 2023 county hazard mitigation plan.
There was no one registered for this public hearing this evening.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed. We have to wait till 6:18 for the next one. I now declare open the public hearing on resolution entitled Monroe County Fair Chance Employment Act.
There is no one registered for this hearing.
I will now reconvene July 11th, 2023 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mr. Clerk?
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers over here to my right. Thank you for your cooperation. The first 3 speakers are Abdul Watkins, Marcus Williams, Mary Beth Knowles.
All right, thank you. Question. We did do the Pledge of Allegiance, so I think that we abide by the United States Constitution here. Is that correct, ma'am? Okay, so I have been told that I can't redress my grievances with my personal person. I'd like to enter into the actual record that I disagree with that, and that's abridging my First Amendment rights to redress my grievances with my people. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Marcus C. Williams. Okay, I'm from the 25th Ledge District. Please let my words reach your ears because I really feel some type of way. So I'm going to do my best not to say anything too terribly much. So I'm here tonight to talk about crime and violence. As you guys have seen, the crime and violence is going outrageously. Okay, very little is being done. Our elected officials on the state level refuse to amend bail reform and amend raise the age laws, which are directly impacting the crime and violence in our community. There are people out there that say that those are not impacting anything. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. I saw my 25th district legislative person at a coffee shop the other day, and I said, hey, would you, stated their name and to them because you know how you address people. I said, hey, would you kindly look into addressing the crime issue and the drug issue in my district, in our district, the district that you represent me in. I didn't say it like that, but I said it nice and stuff like that. And they said, oh, Marcus, I don't think that that's something that we should talk about now. I think that it's inappropriate and I don't feel comfortable like laughing at me, belittling, condescending me as somebody who not only has had to deal with the crime and violence, but also been a victim of the card issues and stuff in my community as well. Okay, just going to completely act like they don't know that we have a real serious issue. And to the point about the drugs in my community is a very serious issue that needs to be addressed. And I'm being told that I can't address this person by name, ma'am. Okay. So with that being said, in closing, I'd like this serious issue to be taken up because nobody, no constituent should be treated that way by their representative. Because I went to the office, I did what I was supposed to do. I called, I came down here. They told me to call. I called them. Okay. No response, no nothing. I catched them outside because I just so happened to be there at the same time. And that's a response from my elected official. That's what I got to say. That's not how we are supposed to be done as constituents, and please address the issues with the crime and the drugs in my community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Knowles. I'm stand before you, a resident of Monroe County, a veteran of the U.S. Army, a retired city school teacher, and a person who believes in justice for all, as we just said in the. Anyway, I just want to say injustice for all. My concern is about RG&E. I was one of the victims of getting a large bill back in November, almost $6,000. It took them sending me 56 more bills in 8 months to clear it up that they owed me. And that should not be happening. The reason why I'm speaking out is because in my role as teacher, I still stay in contact with my former students and their families that are struggling to get by. When they get an RG&E bill like I did, how do they tackle it? I also, as a veteran, I keep my eyes to the ground and my ears open to what's happening to the vets in our community. When they get an RG&E bill like I do, what do they do about it? And as a person who volunteers full-time in the community with refugees, particularly the Afghan refugees that stood up with us and supported us in Afghanistan, we are one of the 25 cities in the United States that are resettling them here. When they get an RG&E bill like I did, how do they handle it? RG&E has proven themselves that they don't know what they're doing and they're screwing us. Justice for all. We need a public utility. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Matt Robinson, Julie Beholtz, Eddie William.
Good evening. My name is Matt Robinson. I'm a homeowner in Irondequoit, and I'm here tonight representing the Parkside Neighborhood Association, of which I am a board member. Our association includes 400 households situated between St. Paul and Seneca Park. On behalf of our association, I am requesting that the county legislature commit up to $1 million towards an implementation study that would examine the possibility of a public utility for our region. Twice in the past several months, issues with RG&E have been on the agenda at our association meetings. The issues that our neighbors have with RG&E are consistent with those that residents from around our region have experienced. Lousy customer service, incorrect bills, constant overestimation of energy usage, and a general lack of accountability. My household has experienced all of these in the past year. I have personally spent over 25 hours on the phone with RG&E trying to correct their mistakes. With all of the issues that we keep experiencing, we have to ask, why are we allowing Iberdrola and Avangrid, RG&E's parent companies, to drain $100 million in profit from our region every year? What value do their shareholders add here? Our region deserves a utility that is accountable to its customers, offers excellent customer service, and doesn't consistently overcharge us. Under Iberdrola and Avangrid's ownership, RG&E has not and will never be that utility. Studies we have looked at show that public utilities have the potential to offer lower rates, better customer service, and increased accountability. If any of those are on the table, don't we owe it to ourselves and our neighbors to see if a public utility could be a better fit for our region? This is a local issue and it needs a local solution. The state is not going to solve this for us. We need to put county resources towards it. The Parkside Neighborhood Association encourages the county legislature to take up this issue by funding an implementation study with up to $1 million. We can do better than Iberdrola and Avangrid, but we have to commit some resources to the problems first. Thank you.
My name is Eddie Williams. The car issue is pretty bad. I happen to have a 23 and they updated the immobilizers in the car, so the 23s couldn't be taken. But it says that cars model 2011 to 2021 can be taken. 2022 Kia Sportage can even be taken, but they messed up so bad they had to change their car logo. Any car you see with the Kia, with the classic Kia emblem, those can be stolen. Anyone you see with the new Kia written on the car, those are the ones that can't be stolen. Just this afternoon at 2:17, an older person outside of my home and across the street from East High School, he got hit by one of these, a group of these kids that stole a car, sped out, and they smacked him into a curb unconscious. I'm currently recovering from a car accident myself. Now, I wasn't a victim of the Kia boys or the Hyundai car stealers. I was just a pedestrian crossing the street, and a car hit me into a curb unconscious and left the scene, and I had a fractured pelvic ring that had to heal over the course of 2 years. I think there needs to be more done sooner. When the kids do get caught initially, it's a misdemeanor. I think there should be some form of, and I'm not saying crucify the kids because that's not the answer either, but there has to be some form of liability, whether it's parents taking on responsibility or accountability. But literally just today, oh, and then the bars that they issued out for the cars, they take no more than 30 seconds to either cut off or you can go to Walmart and buy a cheap screwdriver or a cheap drill gun and take them off that way. So the bars are effectively useless. Again, the only reason my car didn't get stolen is because it was a 23, but they did break in and try, but they were stuck in the parking lot.
Please summarize.
I'm sorry?
Summarize, please. Summarize. You had 2 minutes. You only get 2 minutes.
Oh,
and you're over.
I apologize.
No, no problem. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Eric Zeiss, Glenna Chance, and Brady Ferguson.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Eric Zeiss, speaking for myself and Color Pittsburgh Green. I'm a Pittsburgh resident and an RG&E ratepayer. I'm a fixed income senior homeowner viewing utility rate increases well in excess of even the currently high inflation rates with real fear. My experience with RG&E has been much more benign than most, merely $100 excess charges due to utility meter misreadings or the incapability of RG&E accounting to believe that energy conservation can result in usage that is less than their estimates. Given many billing horror stories and my own experience, the low community trust in RG&E with its 2 layers of multinational for-profit corporate control is well deserved. I want a locally owned, community-controlled, nonprofit public utility where ratepayers, a locally elected board, and local experts make decisions about our energy instead of multiple layers of multinational corporations that raise rates and cut services to increase their shareholders, executives, and corporate profits. Our community supports this initiative. We're not going away. Our community will benefit from a nonprofit public utility by avoiding something like $100 million per year in profits that will not leave this region for shareholder, executive, and corporate profit. Investment on average 33% more into their local communities than investor-owned utilities, so-called IOUs. A nonprofit public utility can borrow at about half the cost of an IOU to help finance the necessary utility modernization to meet the requirements of New York State's CLCPA. Our climate is quite literally on fire, and we are suffering from its smoke. There is no time for further delay. The county's first step is to reserve funds for an implementation study to provide the roadmap for how to create and to run a public utility that fulfills these goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, I'm Glenna Chance. A month ago, Don Alhart on Channel 13 did some interviews with Trish Nilsson, President CEO of RGE. I couldn't wait to hear what she had to say about smart meters. And so I'm just reading what I sent feedback to Don Alhart. I was actually a little surprised that Ms. Nilsson's segment on these historically dangerous meters was so brief. I guess it's best not to say too much that can incriminate you when you know that what you are saying flies in the face of scientific fact. Because I have written to Ms. Nilsson, RGE Corporate Attorney Rosenblum, and other key employees many times since last summer, citing scientific facts with references, they cannot claim ignorance of the irrefutable dangers of these meters. She said, it's a system that's in place nationwide. So what? How many people are being injured, disabled, and displaced because of that? We already have radiation coming from your cell phone, your computer, assuming everybody has those things, from whatever device you're watching this on right now, that are probably higher than what smart meter would have. So no definitive or quantitative assessment, just nebulous generalities based on unsubstantiated opinion, hers apparently, all within safe levels. Okay, safe for whom? I'd like to say that these meters, these devices, there has never been one study on biological safety, not one. Ms. Nilsson's smug statement of how the radiation from these meters is probably lower than that of your cell phone or the device you're watching this right on is presumptive and distasteful. It is also an inaccurate and, I surmise, purposeful conflation of diverse technologies and their attended and practical applications. I go on to say I and many others don't have any of these devices. These meters are hackable and thus a privacy liability, and they can never be turned off. Okay. As far as assessing an opt-out fee on those who value their health, I don't recall being paid $12 a month for reading my meter for years, and assessing a punitive monetary penalty on the disabled violates ADA law. Telling the public to read the industry-funded, and that's, can I just finish these lines? Just a couple lines. Thank you. Telling us to read the safety citations on the RGA website would be laughable if it were not so tragically perverse. Okay, the cigarette industry proved tobacco safety in the same way. So smart meters will be this next big tobacco in Camp Lejeune. Until that time, RGE customers deserve the truth. If not from RGE, then from fellow citizens with a conscience. Just say no. Just say no.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank the county legislature for approving $1 million to accelerate the implementation of its climate action plan, and also for approving the hiring of a sustainability coordinator for the county. My name is Brady Ferguson. I live in the 23rd district, and I'm also a member of Color Rochester Green, and I support our county taking action on climate change. I personally support doing the implementation or the feasibility study, for a public utility, but I actually want to speak about two different actions tonight, which are including workforce development in the county's climate action plan, and also building organics recycling facilities in our county. We can bring multiple benefits to our community by including workforce development with the county's climate action plan, because if we can facilitate collaboration between our school districts, BOCES, MCC, we can bring new job opportunities and economic opportunities to people in clean energy jobs. And it would be especially important to prioritize groups that have historically been excluded from these kinds of opportunities. As far as recycling of organics and food waste, this has multiple benefits as well, because we can reduce methane pollution that comes from those when they go in landfills. And we can also create rich soil that can be used for gardens and wherever it's needed. Now, for people who live in the city of Rochester, it can be pretty hard to do composting in your backyard, especially considering issues with rats and other pests. So I'd really like to see our county do more to build up community composting programs. Like the one we have in the city right now, we only have 1,500 people that can participate. So we need to build multiple organics recycling facilities in our county so that more people can participate in these kinds of programs. So I appreciate you considering taking these actions that can benefit our climate and our community.
Our next three speakers are Cheryl Frank, Jason Pesson, Dr. Michelle Wunderlich.
I'm Reverend Cheryl Frank. I'm Associate Pastor at Greece Baptist Church and President of Color Brighton Green. I'm asking the county for $1 million for an implementation study to form a public utility. The city of Rochester has already voted their share of $500,000, and it's the county's turn to step up. Our church received a $6,000 bill from RG&E for 1 month this winter, when our typical bill is $2,000. My bill for this month was $34, even though I only used $6 worth of electricity and do not have gas to my house. One of our parishioners who's on a fixed income called RG&E to settle an $81 bill, and every time she talked to a new person, the amount changed in varying amounts up to over $1,000. Currently in the US, there are more public utilities than private utilities. RG&E sends our money out of the county and currently is owned by a company in Spain, so is even sending our money out of the country. All faith traditions call that we do not enrich investors on the backs of the poor. Last year, RG&E tore up my street for 7 months to restore a gas pipeline. Why not instead invest in renewable energy? We can't use gas for heating in 10 years if we want to save the next generations from climate change. As one who lost my New Orleans home in Hurricane Katrina and relocated to Rochester, I understand the effects of climate change as increased power of storms and forced migration. $1 million is a fraction of the hundreds of millions that RG&E is bleeding out of our region with no accountability to provide quality service. And we can make sure that RG&E workers are rehired by a new public utility, so no one needs to lose their jobs. We need community representation, expertise, and oversight of this process. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Pessin. I live in Greece. I just wanted to ask if everyone here knows the definition of opaque, and I'm going to assume that most of you do. When I go on the county website and look up violence in Rochester, there's a cool little filter there that you can filter out burglaries, car theft, homicide, all of that. When you filter it to look at just car theft in Rochester, I can't even see the streets. That's how bad it is. It's nothing but orange. And I've used this years and years ago, but you can compare the years and it's quite alarming what's going on in the county. And, I had a speech, but I just wanted to say that there's a lot going on in Monroe County as far as, we're worried about naming a concession stand or worrying about what we're going to do with the concession stand down at Charlotte Beach, when Jose Pio and I, for about 4 years, were saying, oh, dump some money into the Robach building, you could do many events there. It could be, you could gentrify that area and make it a little bit more of a destination for people. But, that's one of the concerns I've had, as well as, the car thefts. We release these kids out, on an appearance ticket. There's garbage all over 104. Make these kids clean up garbage for a day, each of them. Clean up the damn, you got homeless people. Pay homeless people to clean up the streets. I'm so sick of seeing garbage on 104. It's disturbing. I guess my little speech went out the window here, but I have enough on my chest. I could write a novel, so I'll be here next month.
The technical point, are Corey and Eileen the next two? Did they, I think that Corey and Eileen signed up directly before me. So, okay, hold on. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle Wenderlich with Metro Justice's Rochester for Energy Democracy campaign. I wanted to start by expressing our conviction based on experience across the country that little to nothing will address the RG&E crisis through regulatory or state routes. As you likely have seen, the Department of Public Service and RG&E and NYSEG reached a settlement agreement that will bring massive rate hikes to consumers with little included to advance the state's clean energy goals. Under this agreement, RG&E customers will see a 37% increase in electricity delivery rates over a 3-year period and a 34% increase in gas delivery rates. This process, like others, has been documented by community groups to be intransparent, and RG&E has shown its continued unaccountability and disregard for state law, providing insufficient documentation for its financial case, and, for example, still not having even an accounting of its carbon emissions or its effects on disadvantaged communities, of which most of Rochester is one, that is compliant with state climate law. This agreement includes hundreds of millions of ratepayer dollars in imprudent to possibly illegal gas investments, and as well an increase in their rate of profit. An investor-owned multinational corporate utility whose sole goal is to extract as much profit as possible from a region will never be in line with our community's interest. In the end, in line with state law, the avenue to sustainably and systematically address these shortcomings and the continual harm of RG&E to our community is through local action that starts with a feasibility and implementation study to get answers to basic questions like RG&E's valuation, specifically in Monroe County, in its current state, and with economic and climate projections, would also cover issues like workforce development, significant opportunities there, and green transition. So it could work very well with the climate action plan. The public wants an alternative to the multinational corporate mismanagement of RG&E, and we are going to keep fighting until we get it. We hope that you'll be in constructive dialogue with us as we work towards correcting the public record and any misunderstandings and legislation at the county. Thank you very much.
Our next 3 speakers are Clay Harris, Eileen Wren, and Corey Gaffney.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Clay Harris, and I am the founder and president of United in the Healing for Hope of Monroe County, soon to be just hope because people say it's too long. And we all need hope today, don't we? We need a lot of hope in our community, our state, and our nation. And I was here a few months ago. Most of you legislators know who I am. And most people in the room at least seen me once or twice. We do a lot of things. One of our main concentration now, not just doing our helping on Easter and Thanksgiving, but stopping the senseless violence that has metastasized itself throughout Monroe County, the state, and the nation. And I came before you to speak to you a few months ago to encourage, to urge, and to cajole and to provoke our legislators to get busy, to get involved, to stop this senseless violence. One, I haven't heard from any of you other than a few that help us out in this body. There, I believe it's 29 legislators. You guys represent the county. The city is part of the county is part of the city. I don't understand why you can't come up with a comprehensive plan as a body, as a legislature, to address this senseless violence. Now, you guys are getting ready to vote to give yourself a raise. I have a problem with that. I don't think you guys should, and you do not deserve a raise until you come up with a comprehensive plan of how we're going to save our county and our city. I furthermore, although again, there are a few legislators, Adam, county executive, has been helpful, but the legislature need to come up with a bipartisan plan, like you're gonna vote with a bipartisan vote to give yourself a raise. You guys really need to get engaged and get involved. Let's not say you don't know what to do no more, or you don't know how to help. If you don't ask, you'll never know how to help. Uniting the Healing True Hope of Monroe County, go on our website, unitingthroughhope.com. Anybody in the audience want to volunteer for our organization? We're very aggressive. Come on and help. Legislature, let's get busy.
Oh, hi, my name's Corey Gaffney. I'm a volunteer with Metro Justice in the Rochester for Energy Democracy campaign, and I live in the city of Rochester. First, I'd like to thank the county legislator for the opportunity to speak today and to draw more attention to these issues with RG&E. We were following up with the city, did reserve the funds, as has been mentioned, and we are disappointed with the county's stance on this, and we feel they do not have command of the facts. And so I'd like to correct a few things. One of the main points raised was on property taxes and the 100 million RG&E pays in property taxes every year. The $100 million is not RG&E's property taxes. That is paid by rate cars of Monroe County. They are not paying that themselves. And with that, they still get $100 million profit on top of that, going to multinational corporations and leaving the region. With this and the concern for this tax dollars, there is a way to pay this back. This is payment in lieu of taxes. And again, ratepayers are already paying these taxes. This would not affect anything at all. With this, another concern is the cost of acquisition. But these numbers provided are inaccurate. RG&E covers 9 counties. We are not trying to take over 9 counties. We are trying to implement this in Monroe County. We need the numbers for Monroe County. And the only way we can get this is to spend $1 million to fund this public implementation study to get those numbers. With that too, we do not pay for RG&E in one go. It's very similar to purchasing a house. We will pay upfront some, and then we will pay that worked into ratepayers for the rest of it for however long it takes to pay it off. I said, with that too, people have said all of the different things with paying less money to invest, RG&E not investing really to begin with, things along those lines. There's many ways to determine valuation, get answers, and simply said we need a study to figure out what's going on and how to make this work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eileen Wren, and I'm a volunteer with Metro Justice and a homeowner in Chili. I wanted to continue to correct points of misinformation around the process of public power transitions. The state law that governs the right for local governments to own and control their energy infrastructure is entirely based around a county or any smaller jurisdiction being able to separate from an existing system and operate independently. The statement that RG&E's entire service area would need to agree is not only inaccurate, but indeed a county is the largest entity in which a referendum for local utility control is foreseen by state law. In such a transition, there would be a job guarantee for current workers. Only the ownership and multinational mismanagement would change to a local one aligned with our community needs. Another reason a feasibility and implementation study is so important is to outline all the ways we could save money and spur local economic development as a region by not paying $100 million a year to a multinational corporation, but instead investing in lower rates, bringing back jobs that have been outsourced, spurring a renewable transition accessible to everyone, and investing in our own community needs. Public utilities also pay half the borrowing cost of investor-owned ones. So the quicker we can transition to public power, the more transparent and cheaper it will be for us. And with the recent passage of the Build Public Renewables Act, there will soon be an expanded base of cheap renewable power that is only directly available in public utilities or cooperatives. There is such an opportunity to save so much and benefit the lives of those in our county. And with the county's $22 million in unallocated funding and the chance to save hundreds of millions a year and serve our community for the long term, 1 million is a sound investment. We call on the county executive to reconsider the facts and his petition and look forward to working with the county legislature who have the ultimate authority on whether to authorize funds for a public utility study. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Marissa Berland, Colin Loki, Kevin Lockhart.
Hello, my name is Marissa Berkland. I'm from Fairport, New York. I'm a member of the Rochester chapter of the Sunrise Movement, which is a youth-led climate movement. And I'm here on behalf of our support for public power for Rochester and for Monroe County. We are asking you to allocate up to $1 million for an implementation study to replace RG&E with a public utility and to have community representation, expertise, and oversight in this process. If you guys are up on the local news like myself, you'll know that multiple news outlets have named Buffalo, Syracuse, and Rochester climate change refugee cities. And yet we're still feeling the effects of wildfire season here, which is surprising. We need to move to sustainable power sources like solar, wind, and hydro as quickly as we can to keep the worst of the effects of climate change at bay. We know that RG&E won't do this. I'm sure many of you might have heard of New York State's landmark climate legislation, the Build Public Renewables Act. This allows the public sector to build renewable energy sources since the state previously left this only up to the private sector, and unsurprisingly, they did not do this. They built little to no renewable power. So RG&E really has no accountability for their customers in this sector. Their goal is increasing profits, not affordability, not sustainability, and not improving our communities. They can continue burning fossil fuels while we get tangled up in their horrible customer service, begging for change. Wildfire season is here in Rochester and could be our new normal if we don't act. On the topic of affordability, the average Fairport resident who has public power under Fairport Electric, which is amazing, pays 1/3 less than an RG&E customer for power that is actually sustainable. Why can't we all have that? Why does one of the more affluent towns in Monroe County get some of the most affordable power? When I went to school at Fairport High School, I learned about the importance of community and helping others, which led me to get involved in the Sunrise Movement. One of my favorite times of the year was Brotherhood Sisterhood Week, like many of my classmates. A better future is possible for Monroe County where everyone has access to sustainable power, and we need to act now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Lockhart. I just want to say thank you to County Executive Bello for having the moral courage to speak up in defense of public safety. Our preamble to our Constitution begins with, "We the people of the state of New York, grateful to God for our freedoms in order to secure its blessings, to establish this Constitution." And I just want to clarify that that's Jesus that our state is talking about. We are assembled here today because we feel, as an absolute last resort, that we must separate ourselves from the abusive relationship that we are in with the state of New York and our representatives. We have to reestablish local control of our region. In other words, we need to fire all these people. The cost of new structures and luxury developments is unequal to the price of even just one human life. Our wealth cannot be measured monetarily, but in the generosity, kindness, charity, and grace that we show those who are suffering in debilitating conditions. Our representatives, including this legislature, have failed to stand on the side of reason and justice. They failed to establish a basic public safety standard that will keep our families safe. Their inaction and unresponsiveness has caused repeated injury and death. They have gerrymandered districts by skin color, stood in front of signs saying "F the pigs," and defended unlawful assembly. I am pessimistic that they are going to start taking this seriously. And we need to remember that come November when their seats are up for a vote. Our city representatives don't even acknowledge that there is a crisis, let alone make an attempt to resolve it, regardless of how profitable it is to declare a state of emergency every month. I believe that we must envision a future that encompasses all parts of the whole and not just the affluent or influential among us. We need to act as the ethics committee to our governing bodies by organizing our governments during responding to our government's public sessions. Absolutely. We need to become the government. I am of the opinion that the best solution is to take over local control of our government from the ground up. In conclusion, in terms of our safety, which is the #1 priority, we must declare our judges capable of detaining juvenile offenders who pose a serious risk to public safety. We must enact a dangerousness clause. Our families' lives depend on it. Thank you all who showed up today against all odds. The next legislative session is August 8th. Thank you all very much.
Our last speaker is Michael Marshall.
Good evening. Michael Marshall, come before you as a community organizer with the Poor People's Campaign. I was here about a month ago and I get an appeal on behalf of the Metro Justice Rochester Energy Democracy Campaign. So I'm back again. This time I'm appealing to you as this community organizer. Thank you for having me. I wish there were 2 other people following me, make it a little easier. I just want to share with you folks, this past Sunday, I was out at the Genesee Valley Park with Rochester Senior Pride Picnic. And I was tabling on behalf of this campaign for a local publicly owned utility. So I'm here to ask you again, please give us the $1 million to do the feasibility study. While I was out there that Sunday, I collected over 100 signatures. I spoke to 100 constituents in this community. I heard their stories. Their stories are all like the ones you've heard. Problems with customer service, being overbilled, not getting their meters read, not having their issues heard and addressed. I talked to a lot of people that day. They all signed the petition. They are all in support of it. All we're asking for is a feasibility study so that we can have the facts and the information to go forward in this process. That is something that I think as constituents of this county and the city that we deserve. So I ask you, please give us the $1 million so that we can go forth with this study. And I'll tell you, listening to the people out there, they know what's going on. They're very well aware. They're very well informed. They will not be misled. They will not stay silent. Not when they're 2 people, $5,000. That's a magical number with RG&E, by the way. You guys might want to look into that. I don't know how it's always 5,000, but they really are concerned about these issues. So thank you for your time.
This concludes the public forum.
What's your name?
Go ahead. Yep, I did.
So,
Hold on one second.
sure.
You signed up. Yes. You were signed up. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm here to talk about the Calkins Road project that they want to do to narrow that road. So in 2013, I was in a severe car accident. I just picked up my son from school. I was a school teacher at Rush Henrietta School District. I'm an art teacher. I have a master's degree and I have 2 children. and I was a single mother at the time. And still am, but I picked my son up from Winslow Elementary School to take my son to the dentist. An ER doctor who was drunk driving at 11 in the morning ran a red light and T-boned my car. My car was totaled. I've had 14 surgeries. I'm standing here before you with 12 screws in my neck from a triple cervical fusion. I've had every disc herniated in my back. I have had torn labrum surgeries, knee surgeries. I just had a knee replacement, my 6th surgery in this knee. I was 39 years old. My son was in the car with me, who was 9 years old. I had the green light. She was at the red, but she bolted through when somebody kind of jerked their car because of the way the lanes are. And I brought a picture to show you. And she took off. There were 3 cross guards there because that day I would have been proctoring exams at the school to walk kids. The Calkins Road and Pinnacle intersection, the Lehigh Station and Pinnacle intersection, the East Henrietta Road and Lehigh Station intersection, and the Pinnacle Calkins intersection has so many accidents. There have been 3 people who've died since me. I could have died that day. My son could have died. She was aiming towards his passenger door and I swerved just right. I think God or someone in heaven told me to do it. And I took the brunt when my car was hit on the front passenger side and it missed my son by inches. He would have been dead. This woman admitted fault, but she got off all of her DWI charges as a doctor. Allstate, who I had to go to court, would not allow me to sue her simply even though every single bit of evidence was in my favor. I got screwed. I'm now on social services, DSS, Medicaid. I've lost almost everything. So this means a lot to me. I've tried reaching out to legislators and different people, and I've had so many people just turn their back on me because not only did this accident, it affected more things. There was a trickle of trauma that happened afterwards. A Henrietta worker was fixing a grate at the end of my driveway. I was on crutches. I said, thank you for finally fixing that grate for me. I've been bottoming my car out on that. He pushed his way into my home and raped me on my kitchen floor. Then my son was raped by a neighbor. 4 counts of rape, and it is all documented and it all has been to court. This was a 16-year-old boy who was working at the high school as a lifeguard. I contacted the school district because he got 2 years probation, admitted fault. The school district, because he was under 18, his records were protected. They said, well, we fingerprint. I'm like, well, he's a sex offender. I have letters right here saying he should not be around anyone under the age of 12. He still remained at that district. I'm sorry. He remained at that district. And then this is another issue, but he then reoffended by drilling holes into the school locker rooms. I warned the school. I'm someone who wants to speak and help, and I want to help people. I want to improve my neighborhood. I care. I ran for Henrietta Town Council in 2009 against Jack Moore. I didn't win. I'm just going to tell you quickly the intersection issue. Can I just get right to it, please? So currently,
if you continue, we're gonna have to recess the legislature.
I'll just be fast. They want to reduce Calkins Road. There is multiple people who cut in and out. There's lots of side streets. I travel that road 15 times. Please, can I please speak? I walked so hard to come here.
I'm very compassionate about what you're saying, but we have to follow the rules of the legislature.
You're not even letting me explain how you can do this better.
Yeah,
I have a
there's-
smarter,
there's a
intelligent
2-minute
idea.
There's a 2-minute rule and I've already.
I didn't know that.
So I've been more than lenient.
I just would suggest,
I welcome you to come back.
can I quickly just give a quick suggestion, then I can be gone?
Sure.
I think there should be a third lane, a middle lane, so that people can turn. What's happening is people are going around cars onto the sidewalk and going around them. There's high speeds. There should be a speed bump. There should not be a bike lane added there. Put that on Castle Road where there's less traffic. This is the main route that I use to get to 590, to my pharmacies, to Wegmans, to the town municipal buildings. It is not constructed right, and I think the construction should end on Calkins Road. That's why I'm here, because I almost died.
This concludes the public forum.
Thank you.
We will now proceed with the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first agenda item?
Item number one, referral 23-0171.LL, providing that local law entitled amending the Monroe County purchasing law to allow procurement on the basis of best value be lifted from the table.
Johns, seconded by legislator Smith. This is to lift from the table. All in favor? Say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Item carries. I'm sorry, can we take a 5-minute recess? I need a 5-minute break. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yep.
Everybody back in?
Thank you. Legislators, before we begin, I just want to inform you that agenda items 3 and 4 have been removed from tonight's agenda pursuant to the authority invested in me as the presiding officer. For clarity, upon completion of item 2, we will proceed directly to item 5.
We're ready for item number 2?
Yes, go right ahead.
Referral 23-0171.LL, providing that local law entitled amending the Monroe County purchasing law to allow procurement on the basis of best value be adopted as amended.
Moved by legislator John, seconded by legislator Milne. This is to adopt as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Is there a no? Did I hear a no?
Roll call vote?
Roll call vote? Who were the 2 noes, please? Legislator DeFlorio with a no, and Legislator Keller also a no. 26-2. Local law passes. We're now on item number 5. Referral number 23-0210.LL, amending local law number 4 of 2010 entitled enacting a local law authorizing an amendment to lease by negotiation from Galena Development to use and occupy space at 2330 Union Street, Town of Ogden, New York.
Moved by legislator John, seconded by legislator Brew. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 6, referral 23-0210.LL, providing that local law entitled amending local law number 4 of 2010 entitled enacting a local law authorizing an amendment to lease by negotiation from Galena Development to use and occupy space at 2330 Union Street, Town of Ogden, New York, be tabled.
Moved by legislator John, seconded by legislator Brew. This is to table. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 7, referral 23-0210.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled amending local law number 4 of 2010 entitled enacting a local law authorizing an amendment to lease by negotiation from Galena Development to use and occupy space at 2330 Union Street, Town of Ogden, New York.
Moved by legislator John, seconded by legislator Brew. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 8, referral 23-0211.LL, amending local law number 3 of 2016 entitled authorizing a lease with Galena Development to use and occupy space at Panorama Landing, Town of Pittsford, New York.
Moved by legislator John, second by legislator Brew. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 9, referral 23-0211.LL, providing that local law entitled amending local law number 3 of 2016 entitled authorizing a lease with the Galena Development to use and occupy space at Panorama Landing, Town of Pittsford, New York, be tabled.
Moved by legislator John, second by legislator Brew. This is the table. All in favor, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Item carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 23-0211.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled amending local law number 3 of 2016 entitled authorizing a lease with Galena Development to use and occupy space at Panorama Landing, Town of Pittsford, New York.
Moved by legislator John, seconded by legislator Brew. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Item carries. Next item. Oh, I'm sorry. We will now proceed the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 11, referral number 23-0144, providing that resolution entitled Adopting 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Program be lifted from the table.
Second.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislators McCabe, Hebert, Alcoffer, Brew, Morris, Dondorfer, and Smith. Did I forget anyone? And legislator Baines and legislator Keller. This is to lift from the table. All in favor? Say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 12, referral 23-0144, providing that resolution entitled Adopting 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Program be adopted.
Second.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislators McCabe, Hebert, Morris, Alcoffer, Brew, Dondorfer, and Smith. Is there anyone else? Legislator Baines, you too? And legislator Mafucci.
Yep, Keller's on there.
You're welcome. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, legislator Hebert.
Just want to state that I continue to be concerned with the fact that items in the CIP were priced or costed when the CIP affecting that year originally was approved. For example, items in 2024 were priced they're in the 2024.
Legislator Huber, can we just make sure that you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
I continue to be concerned with the fact that the items in the CIP were priced or costed when the CIP affecting that year originally was improved. For example, items that will be coming up in 2024 were actually priced or costed in 2018 prior to inflation, prior to the COVID-19 epidemic. It is why the legislature sees monthly referral requests to increase funding for the CIP projects. The answer to why the increase is always inflation or cost of materials has gone up, et cetera. We hear that constantly. Each department handles, I sit on the planning board that looks at the CIP, and each department handles the annual submission of their projects in its own way. Therefore, I have a question. Do we have, through you, Madam President, to the administration, do we have any estimate of how much total additional funding will be required in 2024 to pay for the projects listed in the 2024 CIP above what is listed there?
Through you, Madam President. The simple answer to that question is no, we don't. Our approach to this is to review each project on a case-by-case basis. Part of our challenge and part of our charge is to manage the CIP and see what the bids come back as. And as we move forward, our analysis is going to be, if they are over what the estimate was, how do we manage that? And there are a number of options that we would consider in terms of the overall project. Offhand, that could include pushing projects out on the timeline in order to manage the dollar amount. And obviously, whatever we would do would come back before this honorable body for approval. But pushing projects out, rescoping projects would be a possibility. But we don't have a blanket approach, and it's something that we're going to be taking a look at on a case-by-case basis. And the management of the CIP is obviously something that we're very in tune with and concerned with and monitor quite regularly.
Thank you. through you, Madam President, to the administration, is there a reason that the various departments all have different approaches to what you just described as the way you manage the CIP?
Madam President, apologize for the pause, long pause. There is not a standard approach used by all departments in costing out future CIP projects. We allow departments to pick a method that they are most comfortable with and familiar with to provide them their flexibility in managing their programs.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I'd ask a quick follow-up. Is there a reason this flexibility is required? Department by department?
Through you, Madam President. The reason for that approach is because there are different factors that go into different projects. A DOT project is significantly different than a capital project. So we have our we have a decentralized approach in terms of how we do that, but in terms of managing it. But overall, obviously, there is an internal process that we have. Individual departments might make initial decisions, but as we deal with the problems and address the problems, the senior management team is involved in monitoring that and making adjustments so that we have a CIP that is something that is within the cost structure that we can afford.
Thank you. And through you, Madam President, one thing I've attempted to do in my now 8th year on the planning board with the CIP is figure out how much is going to be spent. And I find it impossible to do so because of all of these departmental inconsistencies. Some will add an inflation number when they first put it in. Some won't. Some will, I mean, as you described, there are a lot of different approaches. And since you can't really nail down what they are, at least I haven't been able to in 8 years, I cannot really tell if there's a chance that we're going to be able to actually undertake all of these projects, for example, in 2024 or not. Especially with all of the uncertainties going on in Albany, how they've managed or mismanaged, depending on your view, funding, what they might do, effective, et cetera. Do you have any recommendations on how I could actually accomplish that goal?
Through you, Madam President. That's a difficult question. I don't have an immediate recommendation with this for how you approach this. But what I would offer is a response if you look at our stewardship of the county budget as a whole and in the fiscal position that we're in. I would say overall, the system and what we've been doing has worked very well under what are extraordinarily challenging times unlike I think most of us involved in this have not seen or dealt with before. But, you know, again, the CIP is the list of priorities, and again, the balancing of that and how we manage that is something that we deal with on a regular basis in terms of trying to make sure that the dollars that are allocated can help us implement what we're intending to do with the CIP. And you know, it's not always easy, and there have been projects that have been pushed out, and you know, my guess will be through you, Madam President, that there will be other projects that get pushed out or modified or changed as a result of that. And you know, to have a policy in place that sort of deals with really what's unknown. And if you look at what's happened with inflation, even within the last year, you know, it's moved quite a bit. And also in addition to the inflation, given the challenges in terms of the volume of work that's going on in this community, the shortage of workers, that there are, I guess I would just again reiterate, this is something we deal with and we manage on a regular basis. And obviously the fiscal stewardship of county finances and county government are the first thing on Director Franklin's mind. And if they aren't in the first thing on the rest of our minds, they're pretty close up there.
Thank you. And final question, I promise, through you, Madam President. First of all, Mr. Franklin, thank you for your constant supervision and oversight and commentary on how you manage the budget. I think you do a fantastic job. The final question I have is, as you know, we prioritize the projects in the CIP as the last step of the process of the creation of the draft CIP. Is the administration committed to adhering to those priorities if things need to be dropped?
Through you, Madam President. You know, I guess the answer to that would be, it depends. Of course, the priority projects and what there are in the first year are do have they're closer to they're in the front of the line compared to other projects. But again, if we're faced with you know, something unknown, and a couple years ago that would have been a pandemic or something like that would have been really outside of the norm. You know, would we want to be in a position where we have the ability to make some changes and modification if there was a significant change in community need based on unanticipated factors? So I know I said it depends, but the answer basically is yes, unless there are some very unforeseen circumstances that would make us reassess our priorities. And again, as with everything, we would have to come back before this body, but for approval.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Item carries. Next item.
Just before we go to that, Legislator Barnhart, I noticed that you got on. Just wanted to make sure that you can hear us.
I can, thank you.
Item number 13, referral number 23-0165, providing that resolution entitled approving and adopting updated 2023 Monroe County Hazard Mitigation Plan be lifted from the table.
Second, Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Milne. This is to lift from the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 14, referral 23-0165, providing that resolution entitled approving and adopting updated 2023 Monroe County Hazard Mitigation Plan be adopted.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Milne. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item. Legislator Brew?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move all the remaining agenda items as one with the exception of the following. Items number 16, 17, 18, 25, 34, 40, 44, 45, and all matters of urgency, which would be items number 46, 47, 48, and 49.
I got a second from legislator Vasquez Simmons.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 16.
Item number 16, referral number 23-0190, authorizing additions to Monroe County Western and Eastern Agricultural Districts.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Alcoffer. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 17, referral 23-0190, providing that resolution entitled authorizing additions to Monroe County Western and Eastern Agricultural Districts be tabled.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Alcoffer. This is to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Item carries. Item number 25.
Oh, item number 18.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 18.
Item number 18, referral 23-0190, fixing a public hearing by the Planning and Economic Development Committee of the Monroe County Legislature on resolution entitled authorizing additions to Monroe County Western and Eastern Agricultural Districts.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Alcoffer. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item 25. Item number 25, referral 23-0197, authorizing implementation of project labor agreement for Monroe Community College Applied Technology Center STEM Addition Project.
Move it, Madam President.
Moved by legislator McCabe, seconded by legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, legislator Hebert.
Thank you, ma'am. Through you to the administration, what was the cost to Labella to engage Sealer Engineering to analyze the project labor agreement project?
Through the president, I don't have that number with me right now, but I can get it to you quickly.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Through you, Madam President, the administration, why is there a 6 to 7 month delay from completion of demolition of building 9A and the start of construction on the new facility?
Through the president, we want to get the demolition complete so we can have site work prepared. And then in the process of that, we're finalizing the design of both the ATC facility, and you'll recall that the optics portion of the project is included, which we're finalizing in schematic design. So we won't have an exact footprint of what the new building is going to look like. We want to have the site ready to go and prepared. So when that finalized design is complete, we can hit the road running.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the administration, when is that finalized site plan?
Through the president, we're expecting to finalize engineering in the first quarter of next year and be out for bids in the first quarter, and then back to the legislature for approval of contracts probably by the second quarter of next year.
Final question through you, Madam President. For Appendix C, wage concessions in this PLA, can you explain why only 4 of the union labor forces provide lower rates under the PLA?
Through the president, could you be specific on which 4 you're referring to, please?
President, through you to the administration, I did not bring the document with me. It is in Appendix C, titled Wage Concessions. If you go through that long list of unions involved, there are only 4 of them that are offering a lower labor rate. In some cases, it's just pennies.
Through the president, we'll review the assessment and provide a response in writing.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item number 34.
Item number 34, referral number 23-0206, accepting grant from New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for Operation Stone Garden Program and authorizing intermunicipal agreements with the towns of Greece, Arundecoy, and Webster.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded by Legislators Dondorfer and Smith. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Legislator. Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in
Roll
favor?
call vote.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Roman.
Yes.
Ms. Roman votes yes. Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Alcoffer votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
No.
Barnhart votes no. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes no. Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Delahaney. Mr. Delahaney votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes no. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman.
No.
Ms. Hasman votes no. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert votes yes. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith votes no. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe.
Yes.
Mr. McCabe votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. Ms. Vecchio. Ms. Vecchio votes yes. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. President Lamar.
Yes.
President Lamar votes yes. 23-6. Resolution passes.
Next item.
Item number 40, referral 23-0215, authorizing contract with Coordinated Care Services for Multicultural Teen Prevention and Support Program.
Moved by Legislator Keller, seconded by Legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Item carries. Next item.
Item number 44, referral number 23-0219, authorizing contract with Squad 9 LLC for Rochester Threat Advisory Committee Planning and Training Consultant Services.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, legislator Vecchio. Thank you.
Noted.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 45, referral number 23-0220, authorizing contract with Ontario Bus, Inc. for bus transportation services for Monroe County intervention and preschool special education programs.
Moved by legislator Keller, seconded by legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, legislator Hebert.
President, through you to the administration, who else responded to the RFP?
Through Madam President, I'll have to look and see if that's in the packet here. Through Madam President, I don't believe there were any other respondents.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, to the administration. I note that this contract went into effect July 1st, which is 10 days ago. Has Ontario Bus Incorporated been providing services to our early intervention and preschool special education students since that date?
Through Madam President, they're the current provider continuing services.
Thank you. And through you, Madam President, the administration, could you tell me who that current provider is? Is it Monroe?
Through Madam President, it's Ontario is the current provider and just continued the services.
Last question through you, Madam President. In the recent past, hasn't Ontario had problems providing adequate services, especially for preschool special education?
Through Madam President, there were some issues in the first year of the contract, but we've worked through them and they've shown significant progress.
Yes, I lied. One last question through you, Madam President, the administration. Consider their current service levels to be acceptable for both programs?
Through Madam President, yes.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 46, referral number 23-0221, accepting compensation policy commission report.
Moved by legislator Brew, seconded by legislator Baines. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, legislator Baines.
Madam President, I'd like to explain my vote. I rarely use other people's words to do so, but I'd like to read a brief statement by Rick Dollinger, who served on our salary commission.
Legislator Baines, can we just make sure that you speak in the microphone? I think
Is it okay if I sit?
yes, the interpreter was having trouble hearing you. That's all. I just want to make sure that she can hear you.
Thank you.
We can hear you fine, but
I want
to make sure that she
I
can
want
hear
to
you.
be heard.
Yes.
Clerk.
The floor is yours, Legislator Baines.
This is a statement from Rick Dollinger. Colleagues, I was elected to this legislature in 1987, 36 years ago. When I was sworn in, I was paid $18,000 annually. I served thereafter in a number of roles in the state government and the state judiciary. My grandmother, Margot Finnegan, sat in this same chamber after being elected to this body as a Republican supervisor for the 12th Ward in the city of Rochester in 1960. She sat in the back row too, but that one. A seat on the north side of the legislative chamber, which remains the incubator of my family's public service and has a soft spot in my heart. Now I ask you to vote to raise your pay and that of other county elected officials. It is no longer fair for you to be paid what I was paid 35 years ago. First, I want to thank President Lamar for appointment to the Compensation Policy Commission. I thank the members of the Democratic Caucus for their nomination of me. I thank all the members of the commission, especially our chairman, Jack Moffett, who did a superb job of blending the multitude of opinions on this complex issue into a very constructive final report. I commend the members of the majority staff, including the clerk, David Grant, as well as Saul Maniero, who assisted the Democratic members of the commission. Finally, I thank the Monroe County Law Department for their assistance in resolving several of the legal issues involved in the commission's work. I strongly recommend that this legislature approve the commission report in its totality. If you review the videos of the online meetings of the commission, you will see that there was an extensive debate about a series of practical and policy issues involved in adjusting elected officials' pay. We discussed the intricate and sometimes difficult politics of asking public officials to vote to raise their own pay. We discussed the impact of delayed compensation on recruiting members of both the legislative and executive branches of county government. There were differences of opinion and strong sentiments from all the commission members on what appropriate amount should be paid for those who participate in public service in our county. The final report that emerged from our discussions is, in my judgment, a temperate and realistic appraisal of the need to pay public officials for their work for county residents. That if the fact that an adjustment in the level of compensation is long overdue and is required to avoid the erosion of compensation through inflation and adjustments in the cost of living seems self-evident. But from my perspective, the most important ingredient in the commission recommendation is that the commission members recognize the value of public service. Public service in our county requires more than just attending official meetings. It requires attendance at neighborhood and community events in order that our public and all parties from all perspectives understand the complex issues the county government faces now and in the future. Communicating with the public and participating in public events is an important aspect of what the public requires from their elected officials. It consumes time that members might otherwise spend with their families, their work, or their private lives. And it deserves to be recognized and properly compensated. And the greatest word in all letters, finally, I would strongly suggest, while there may be objections here and there to the scope of some of the adjustments that we have proposed, it would in some measure defeat the purpose of the commission if this package of compensation proposals were subdivided and voted on separately. The commission discussed the need for a package of proposals, and we concluded, and that was 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, that fairness dictates that all elected public officials, appoint 3 appointed by the Republican Party, 2 by the Democratic Party. I'm correcting the record. That's my mistake. Breaking down this proposal into its individual parts and voting on them separately would, in my judgment, undercut the many compromises that the commission adopted to achieve a complete and fair adjustment of the salaries of all public officials in our county. Your work has value, The $18,000 that I was paid 35 years ago is not a fair compensation today for all you do. Thank you for listening, Rick Dollinger. And I'd like to add that as a 28-year-old, 41 years ago, I was elected. I was the youngest elected judge in New York State. My salary was $75 a week. I was working 20 to 30 hours a week as a local judge. That was $3,600 a year. I had 3 children with my wife, and we had never owned an automobile that we had paid more than $600 for. That $3,600 salary I received as a local judge in 1982 lifted my family out of poverty. I'm not voting for this because I need the money. I'm term limited. I'm going to be gone. This is legacy work that we are doing here. What 26, 27, or 28-year-old woman who can't afford to be away from her family but has a gift that she could be giving this county might be willing to run if she were more fairly compensated than what Rick was paid 35 years ago? And so I don't urge anybody to vote yes. I urge you to vote your conscience, and I respect your vote, however you vote. But I'm voting yes for the reasons Rick laid out and for that story I just told about my much younger self. I yield the floor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Legislator Baines. Legislator DeFlorio.
Thank you, Madam President. I also rise to explain my vote. I have long been a proponent of initiating a compensation commission, quite honestly, for several years. However, before the commission was convened, the charter should have been amended to allow for a more gradual increase for any identified gaps, identified insignificant gaps, and to establish a process to remove this as a political issue in the future. At a time when so many county employees and county taxpayers are struggling as costs continue and everything continue to rise, I cannot support such a large jump in salaries to go into effect next year, and I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator DeFlorio. Is there any other discussion? Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Madam President. I also rise to explain my vote. First of all, I do also want to commend the commission. All the members on a job very well done. It's my opinion commission members did a thorough job, and their report details every aspect regarding why a raise is long overdue from Monroe County's elected officials. However, when I presented this proposal to my constituents at 2 different meetings in June in the towns of Penfield and Webster, those towns represent my district, by the way, I asked for their opinions. I thoroughly and fairly explained the proposal and addressed their questions and asked them for a vote on how I should vote. 2 meetings combined, 15 attendees were in favor, approving the commission's report, and 48 were opposed. 2 comments made by individual constituents were particularly concerning. The first by a lady, young lady, in fact, who said she received a raise of 27 cents per hour this year. And how could I support a 60% raise for my position as a legislator? Second comment came from a gentleman stating that when elected officials, the ones that are affected, the county legislator, the county executive, the county clerk, and the sheriff, ran for office the last time, they accepted the salary as it was and as it stands today. And they were clearly okay with the existing salaries because they chose to run for the office and the position. He asked me how I could justify such a large increase in just in my case, 2-year period. Didn't have a good answer for him. 2015, I ran for this office to represent my constituents. I have tried to do that faithfully and consistently. More than 75% of my constituents opposing such increases. I cannot support this proposal, and I will be voting against it. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Legislator Hebert. Does anyone on the Zoom want to say anything? Go ahead, Legislator Barnhart.
Thank you, President Lamar. I would also like to explain my vote. I've long believed we needed to raise the pay for the county executive and county clerk, But I was really worried that this commission was set up to give excessive raises to county legislators, given some of the public comments made at the beginning of this process. I was pleased, however, to see that the commission recommended a salary level about half of the median household income for Monroe County. The last time we got a raise, legislators got a raise about 3 decades ago, it was a bit more than half of the median income. They probably were a little too generous to themselves back then. Obviously, a lot of time has passed, and it's appropriate to reevaluate our pay. And though some of us put in more hours than others, this is structured as a part-time position. I'm out of town at a conference for my full-time job, for example, and I don't think I would have been okay with a higher amount than what was recommended. If we wanted to move in the direction of higher pay, we would need to think about making these full-time positions. We'd likely have to reduce the size of the body and enact other reforms. And I also want to address Legislator Hebert's comments, which I really appreciate, because there are a lot of people in our community who are struggling in their own lives. And for some of them, $28,000 is a full-time salary. And I really believe that the answer is to lift everyone up. Universal childcare, universal health care, expanding the child tax credit, raising wages for everyone. There's so much that we can and should be doing, even at our level, at the county level, to help everyone in our community with lower incomes and people who are experiencing financial hardship. In the meantime, I am comfortable with these recommendations at this time, and I do thank the commission for its work. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Barnhart. Legislator McCabe.
Thank you, Madam President. I wish I could be as eloquent as my colleague across the aisle in Legislator Baines. When he speaks, it's usually very impressive, and I want to congratulate him on what he said. When I ran for the legislature, I looked at things in a way that I wanted to get work done bipartisan wise. And I think it's important that a bipartisan commission made a unanimous recommendation to this body and that we support what the compensation committee has recommended. They put a tremendous amount of work in. They did regression analysis. They looked at everything, as my colleague, Ms. Barnhart said, Legislator Barnhart said, they did a tremendous amount of work and the salary came in fair. For all the positions, the salaries came in fair. They did a tremendous amount of work, should be commended for the work they did. I don't want to kick this can down the road. At this point, this has been 35 years that legislature after legislature after legislature has chosen, for whatever reason, to not handle this. I didn't run for the legislature. There's hard decisions in the legislature, and people are going to be upset. I did speak to a lot of constituents in my district through the town of Greece and in the legislative district, my 6th district. And when you explained it to people and they got, oh, it's been 35 years, that makes sense. You should get a raise. And when you tell them the percentages and you look at the percentage over time, it's a fair raise. We should be supporting this. I would like to see both sides of the aisle support this. I mean, obviously, a couple of my colleagues on the Republican side aren't going to support this, but I wholeheartedly support this. And I think it's right for this legislature to do and to step forward and not kick this can down the road. I think that would be a total misstep by this body moving forward to do that. And I think it's important that we step up as a legislature and do what's right. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Legislator McCabe. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote.
Roll call. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Roman.
Yes.
Ms. Roman votes yes. Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Alcoffer votes no. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes no. Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Delahanty. Mr. Delahanty votes no. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. DeFlorio votes no. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman.
Yes.
Ms. Hasman votes yes. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert votes no. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith votes no. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes no. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes no. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe.
Yes, sorry.
Mr. McCabe votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. Ms. Vecchio. Ms. Vecchio votes yes. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. President Lamar.
Yes.
President Lamar votes yes. 19-10, resolution passes. Item number 47, referral 23-0222, approving Monroe Community College's 2023-2024 operating budget.
Moved by legislator Alcoffer, seconded by legislator Smith. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 48, referral 23-0222, providing that resolution entitled approving Monroe Community College's 2023-2024 operating budget be tabled.
Moved by legislator Alcoffer, seconded by legislator Smith. This is a motion to table. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Item carries. Next item.
Item number 49, referral 23-0222, fixing a public hearing on resolution entitled approving Monroe Community College's 2023-2024 operating budget.
Moved by legislator Alcoffer, seconded by legislator Smith. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. There being no unfinished business. Legislator Brew.
August 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m.